Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm John Edward, and here we break down complex geopolitical and financial stories into insights you can genuinely understand. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Right now, as I analyze the situation, Iran's Khamenei regime is facing modern history's greatest civil collapse. Millions of Iranians aren't standing still anymore. They're exhausted, they're fed up, and they're fighting back. Through sheer incompetence, the regime destroyed itself, driving people mad with hunger and thirst. The protests that erupted at December 2025's end have morphed into a massive civil war against the Khamenei regime. As we speak, more than 70 cities across 31 provinces have been engulfed by uprisings. Dams have dried up, major markets have shut down, regime flags are burning in the streets. For survival, people are literally fighting, battling each other for a piece of bread or a single bucket of water. In the 21st century's middle, Tehran is transforming from a nuclear tower into a water beggar. The Iranian regime that threatens the world with missiles cannot provide a single drop of water to its people in its own capital. They've even started begging neighbors for water. People aren't queuing anymore for free bread. Holding empty cans, millions of Iranians are trampling each other just to get plastic water containers to take home. Only the sound of helplessness and air flows from the taps now, not water. In real time, this is what civilization's collapse looks like. That's why the white flag was raised by President Pezeshkian, saying in desperation that Tehran's relocation has become a necessity. Iran's water bankruptcy disaster hasn't just devastated nature. The very survival of the Iranian state itself is being undermined by it. A rescue operation? Absolutely not. Modern history has ever witnessed the greatest escape plan. From Tehran, taking the capital and moving it 1,000 kilometers south into the desert's middle. For Iran's leaders, this is the only option left. And approximately 14 million people are becoming water refugees now. Iran's capital is counting down to day zero. As if this exploitation weren't enough, one of the greatest engineering disasters the human mind could conceive was built like a dagger plunged into Lake Tyria's heart, the Shahid Kalantari Highway. This 15 kilometers embankment road built to connect two cities split the lake literally in two. Natural water circulation was stopped by it, sediment accumulation was accelerated, and the lake's ability to clean itself was destroyed. Once a single breathing organism, by this highway, the lake was suffocated and transformed into two separate dying pools. Today, not a decline but an extinction is documented by the numbers. The lake, which in the 1990s held 30 billion cubic meters of water, has now lost more than 95% of its volume. Beaches once packed with tourists and navigable by ships have turned into toxic salt deserts stretching for miles, dotted with abandoned piers. The lake is no longer a permanent body of water, satellite data confirms, but only a temporary pool formed by seasonal rainfall. This isn't nature's quirk. For profit, this is an ecological crime designed, completed, and implemented. To fully understand what's happening right now, about the monster beneath the ground, we need to talk. The technical term the media dismisses as climate change, land subsidence. In Tehran, what's happening isn't simply less rain this year. Tehran is sinking, not figuratively but irreversibly, geologically, and physically sinking into the ground. By the Center for Strategic and International Studies, scientific data and satellite analyses present a terrifying, indisputable fact. Tehran is among the world's fastest sinking metropolises. At a rate of 35 centimeters per year, some parts of the city are sinking. Let me put that into perspective. That's hundreds of times Venice's annual sinking rate. Every 3 years, imagine a building's foundation sinking 1 meter. No engineering marvel, no steel, no concrete can withstand such rapid ground movement. On buildings, the hairline cracks you see are actually the building's cries for help. This is called permanent compression by scientists. Why permanent? For the soil, underground water reserves act like a sponge. The pores are filled by water, and the soil is helped to bear the city's weight above. But when you viciously extract every last drop of that water, the sponge dries out. Under millions of tons of city weight above, it's crushed, compressed, and cemented. According to satellite analysis, on a giant powder keg Tehran is sitting, ready to explode at any moment. Metro tunnels are warping. After tracks, rails are coming. This is the real reason President Teskian said more population cannot continue being added here because the infrastructure has physically collapsed. Currently, the regime is running a global propaganda campaign telling the world they're victims and climate change hit them. This is a massive lie. It's not Tehran being dried up by the sun. It's corruption and rent-seeking. When a bankrupt company closes, down comes its sign. But what happens to a bankrupt capital city? In those long, hopeless queues on throne streets, the answer lies. Look carefully at what's happening right now. In line for luxury electronics or free bread, these people aren't. A fortune they're paying to stand in line to buy a plastic water tank to put in their bathroom or on their balcony. Reported by Reuters from the field, these images are a preview of day zero. When they wake up tomorrow morning, people know not a single drop of water may come out of the tap. The regime statements that there is water aren't believed by anyone anymore. Everyone's looking out for themselves. Speaking to NBC News, a woman from Tehran sums it up perfectly. Nothing flows because the pressure is so low. For days we haven't been able to bathe. The thin veneer of civilization quickly peels away when water runs out. Hygiene collapses. In Tehran, due to insufficient water flow, sewage systems are clogging and backing up. Among the 21st century skyscrapers, this means medieval diseases like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery are re-emerging. When before cameras on December 3rd, Energy Minister Abbas Ali-Abadi appeared, a new strategy he wasn't announcing. The regime's white flag of surrender he was raising. The minister officially confessed the shameful truth hidden for years by saying from neighbors they'll buy water for a regional superpower boasting a nuclear program and hypersonic missiles. Diplomatic suicide was this sentence. The tyrant administration succeeded in enriching uranium but failed to fill its people's glasses. The most humiliating, comic, and tragic aspect. At the Taliban's door, Iran is begging for water. With Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, the modern Iranian state has been forced to sit down at the negotiating table to access life's most basic source. Of Tehran's decline and helplessness in the regional hierarchy, this is the most concrete picture. So, is the crisis really that deep? Climate scientist analyses show not just a crisis the picture is, it's a mathematical impossibility. A population of 50 million at best, Iran's current water resources can only sustain. Yet rapidly approaching 100 million, Iran's population is. Using depleted resources, the regime is trying to keep alive twice the number of people that the geography can sustain. To make a radical decision, this unsustainable equation has pushed the state. To virtual water import, the regime is switching. The cessation of agriculture, this fancy term actually means. To conserve water, the state has decided to dry up the fields and import food for the people instead. The end of the self-sufficient country fairy tale told since the 1979 revolution, this decision marks. The resistance economy doctrine has collapsed, replaced by food dependency. In foreign suppliers' hands, Iran's food security now lies because a state that has to import water has begun surrendering piece by piece its sovereignty. Now that the lake has died, the people's nightmare has begun. With every gust of wind like it, salt tsunami, the remaining 10 billion tons of toxic salt fill millions of people's lungs. In Tabriz and surrounding areas, respiratory diseases and cancer have exploded. In an invisible gas chamber, the people are condemned to live. But there the horror doesn't end. The law of the jungle begins when water runs out. On Tehran streets, a water mafia has sprung up. Not only the dams but also the water tankers entering the city. Reports indicate the Revolutionary Guards now control. Do you understand what this means? Public service water is no longer. It's a weapon. To loyal neighborhoods, government buildings, and military housing, while the regime directs water only. To DROUGHT, it's preparing to discipline poor neighborhoods with high protest potential. This is hydro-dictatorship. In Tehran's back streets today, 10 times the price of gasoline is the black market price of a liter of clean water. Just to get clean water for their children, a middle-class Iranian spends half their salary. From within, this economic pressure is rotting society. From each other, neighbors are stealing water. Over water tanks, apartment managements are keeping watch. A culture that once said, He who sleeps full while his neighbor is hungry is not one of us, has now turned into a survival battle. Like water vapor, social trust has evaporated. Paranoia is the only thing left. To this chaos, what was the regime's response? Scientific infrastructure reform? Now, once again, an illusion was the answer. Cloud seeding. Into the sky spraying chemicals, we see Revolutionary Guard planes attempting to force rain. But the MOA's orders, atmospheric physics doesn't obey. In air with no moisture, nothing more than an expensive, unsuccessful charade that serves only to further poison the people. These efforts are around thrown. When wetlands and lakes dried up, behind they left toxic sediment accumulated over decades. Industrial waste, heavy metals, agricultural pesticides. Now, this toxic sediment fills 14 million people's lungs in the form of salt and dust storms every time the wind blows. Of a mysterious cough epidemic, doctors in Tehran speak. But mysterious at all it's not. Of a city becoming a biological dead zone, it's the slow suffocation. Not just thirst, people aren't fleeing to avoid poisoning and suffocation, they're fleeing. So, about this relocation to the Makran Coast project they're proposing as a solution, what? $100 billion fantasy, it's an illusion. A regime under sanctions with an empty treasury. Where will it find this money? It won't. To save the people, this project isn't. In the desert for the regime's elites, commanders, and their families. It's to build a sterile, luxurious, secure bubble. The remaining 14 million ordinary people, students, teachers, workers, to their fate under Thran's rubble they're left. To the people, the regime's message is crystal clear and ruthless. Ourselves we're saving. You fend for yourselves. Here's what I want you to think about. Discarded by the state, what will these millions of people do? In their thirsty homes, will they wait to die? Now, when water runs out, migration begins, human history teaches us. And already that migration has started. A mass movement of water refugees from Thran to the north to provinces on the Caspian seashores. Recent reports confirm. With their last money, people are renting vehicles, packing their bags, fleeing north to the only place where there's greenery and water. But salvation, that's not. A new conflict zone, it's erecting barricades. The local population has already begun. Stoning vehicles to protect from these outsiders arriving from Thran their land and water. Leaving locals homeless. Real estate prices have skyrocketed. Into a war over resources, Iran is being dragged. An internal conflict that could trigger the biggest uprising in the last decade, because not for freedom now people will take to the streets, but to survive. And driven mad by hunger and thirst. There's no police force that can stop a crowd. But let me ask you this. How did a superpower candidate end up in that white spot on the map? The answer is hidden. The largest lake in the Middle East, Lake Ormia, has been wiped off the map by one of the greatest ecological crimes in human history.